Baseball Beat with Schneiderhan and Anthony Sorbellini. Play ball!
All right, we are back here talking playoff baseball with the Baseball Beat. October is baseball month here on the podcast. Joining me today, first up, the unofficial co-host of this podcast, the great Will Schneiderhan. Will, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Yeah, also with us today, the other half of the Baseball Beat, the Yankee half, who is in deep mourning right now after last night, Anthony Sorbellini. Anthony, how are you holding up?
I'm hanging in there, Mike. I'm hanging in there.
All right. Good to know. We'll spare your sorrow for a few minutes. I do want to talk a little about the baseball season as a whole because we have not talked since mid-August, and things did get a little bit different from then. So I'll start off with this, guys. I'll go to you first, Will. Your take on this season, this weird 60-game season we got with the expanded playoffs as a whole.
It's just like a lot of getting used to and stuff, and I don't know. I think all sports in general. There's like a lot of kind of like injuries, weird performances, great performances. I don't know. You know what? It's just like it felt bizarre for the most part, and I'm happy that it's coming to an end. I know some of this stuff is going to stick around, but it allowed for me to kind of have some of the stuff grow on me. But at the same time, I hope we never have a season. Let's hope like this again, just because that means we never have a time in the world like this again.
Yeah.
My biggest thing is, as much as I do love, the sports in general, but baseball, I found like I wasn't as fully invested as I would normally be.
Mm-hmm.
Like on one end, it was great, of course, to have sports back in general, but baseball too. It didn't feel right. Like, granted, watching the Yankees and, make that playoff run and eventually losing last night, I was kind of just like, okay. I don't know. It just felt weird.
Yeah, definitely. I felt that.
Yeah, definitely kind of, like I said, don't get me wrong, super happy to, watch sports, watch baseball as a whole, but I just wasn't invested in it.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, like, the normalcy of having games every day was nice, but, like, you did feel that degree of separation where it's like, I feel like it's this whole other world than the one you're living in because they're at the parks. There's no fans there. Like, they have all these weird different rules. I feel like there's this whole, like, little, like, it was like, felt like literally just put a bubble around the stadiums and you can't access it, but it's still happening around you. That's the way I kind of felt.
Yeah, well, that investment part, right? Like, it's exactly what it was. Like, all summer, usually I'm like, yes, but now, it's kind of like, there's baseball, but I'm not going to get super upset about it if somebody loses. Just all sports in general, I'm like that. Besides the Lakers, I really want the Lakers to win.
It's kind of just like, I know we touched on it, when way back when we were first talking about, the possibility of baseball coming back, but it was pretty much, if anything, just served as a distraction for everything going on in the world. So that's always, like that's kind of been the power of sports in a sense, to serve as an outside distraction. But again, I know I wasn't fully invested in it. Like I said, again, I was watching games here and there, but it wasn't like, oh, let me, sit down on my couch. Let me make sure I have baseball on. It was just kind of when I'm flipping through, oh yeah, baseball's on, which is so odd for me because I'm the complete opposite. Normally it's, oh, I have to watch the Yankees. I have to watch baseball. Who's playing? But this season it was just like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I think as far as that goes, I think one thing also hurt this, I think, to agree. I think the expanded playoffs, I think, didn't help much because I guess like why they had to do it and why they wanted to get the extra teams in because of the inequity of the scheduling. But like, felt like for a long time there's like no real like massive stakes because like half the league was getting in. Like even when the Yankees were struggling in the middle of like August until mid-September, you felt like, oh, they're still gonna get in because what's gonna happen? The Detroit Tigers are gonna get hot and catch them? No, it's like. Even the last week of the season when the Mets were somehow still bumbling around with a chance, they got all the help they possibly could have needed, and they still couldn't make it in because they couldn't trust themselves to win the games.
No, that's just kind of how I felt, especially because I know hockey and basketball, have 8 teams make the playoffs. It almost feels like it kind of diminishes, making the playoffs because especially those first round of playoffs don't mean anything. It's kind of just like, I don't want to watch a 2 play an 8. So that's why I really liked, a couple of years ago when I believe it was the tail end of Bud Selig's tenure where he implemented, the one game wild card playoff. It made winning your division that much more important because you could have one bad game, and baseball is literally such a day-to-day sport to where if you had one bad game, your season's done. Even if like you were the Pirates a couple of years ago, you win 90-plus games, but then all of a sudden you're done.
I think that's a great example, like exactly like how it never felt like you were like, the investment that you talked about, and then it's just like every time, like I want to, as a baseball fan, you kind of want to be like, oh my God, the Marlins are such a great story, right? But then it's like, they played double headers, and like I get it, all things considered, I completely get it. But yeah, it was like you said, it was nice to have baseball on TV. And it's not their fault. My gosh, this is the world. You had to deal and adapt.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So I just like, it was nice to have it on TV. But yeah, at one point you're kind of just like, oh, like this is just not, I'm not into it. Like it's just a lot of different factors. And yeah, the playoff thing I think was tough. Just like a lot of, like it's fun to panic during baseball season. You know what I mean? And like winning your division is like the thing to do. You get your playoff game. But now it's like, you're kind of like, all right, like winning the division doesn't really matter. Like the Yankees are fine doing with what they did. You know what I mean? Where in other years, it's like you didn't win the division, you're the Yankees. Like, so that was kind of like where I was a little not. I think that's where maybe some of my disinterest came from. But hey, they got through it. We're getting into the championship series now, and we'll see how that's handled in the World Series.
No, I'm just saying, just piggybacking off of that, what Will was going off of, just in hindsight, months ago, it is kind of remarkable that we're here. We're talking about the championship series and then the World Series, in a couple of weeks. So it's kind of crazy seeing everything come full circle.
Yeah, I think also the neutral fields also I think does add a little weirdness to this, where like Yankees Rays is being played in San Diego. We have Globe Life with the Dodgers. It's like it doesn't even feel like it's the real postseason. It just feels like it's one of those like postseason tours that they would the All Stars take to Japan or something like that. Except there's no fans there. That's the thing that bothers me. But we'll go to the Yankees for a bit because the Yankees, their season's done. They lose in 5 to Tampa Bay. Obviously, I broke this down a bit at the top of the podcast, my thoughts on it. But Anthony, as the Yankee guy, what's your big takeaway out of this series?
I mean, the Rays are legit. They're here to stay. I mean, I know we talked about it doing our previews and everything. And don't get me wrong, I knew the Rays were going to be the biggest test for the Yankees moving forward, in terms of the AL East. But, we didn't expect really the Astros. So that should be a good ALCS coming forward. But, yeah, the Rays are kind of just that little gnat that kind of just sweeps underneath the radar and just, they do everything right. They build up a farm system. They have a couple key guys. And they just go out and they play. They're just a bunch of grinders and dogs. They do everything to get out there. So it was great to watch. As much as I hate the Rays, it's a great story. It's great for baseball, seeing a small market team, get out there and everything. So I'm excited to see them moving forward.
Yeah, well, I think the turning point of this series, in my opinion, I think you would. I don't know if you agree with me on this. I feel like in Game 2, that whole fiasco when Davey Garcia starts, pitches a great inning, and then gets taken out so they can do the opener with him and have J.A. Happ be the middle guy. At that point, I'm like, I don't understand this. I don't get the logic here. I feel like they got in, the Rays got in the Yankees' heads here. It sort of had this philosophy of like, oh, we're trying to outraise the Rays, and we're not smart enough to do that, and then it backfires spectacularly, burning 2 pitchers in 1 shot. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it did kind of feel like that, right? Where it was like, oh, you guys can do it, so we can do it too, and stuff like that. So I did. I didn't like it that they did it. I thought it, like, just for the benefit of the pitcher too, like, why would just let Devi go, Like, he's going to have to do it at one point. And, I mean, Jay, I don't know. Is Happ really, like, a guy who you really trust in that much? It was just whatever they were really trying to do obviously didn't work out. And I think that's what ultimately kind of unfortunately cost the series for him, because it was just it was an emotional series to begin with. That was an emotional game. And it's a game that's just one of those like series backbreakers,
Yeah, Anthony, as you were watching that game too, and you see Davey coming out and Happ coming in, what were you thinking?
I think, you hit it on the head, just trying to outraise the Rays, but you really can't do that considering the Rays are pretty much the team that, or at least one of them that, that created the the scheme of the opener and everything. So, and plus the Yankees, I think you should have let Cole go as far as Cole could go. You know, your 1-run game to an eventual tie game. You know, you're not at that one. So just let everything go. Don't try to overthink things. You know, Cole was dealing. Yes, he had his little hiccup in the first inning, but he kind of always has that. I think his stat in the first inning is his ERA is the highest out of all his innings pitched, but he just gets better from that. So I'm always a firm believer of the eye test. Yes, analytics have a time and place, but I think Boone relies too much on analytics, and I think that's just a case of, you know, Boone just getting in his own head a little bit and just trying to outraise the Rays.
Yeah, I think well, I'm talking about game 2. I mean, game 5, what they did with Cole was fine. I feel like he got them deep. He got on 3 days rest. He'd never done it before. They did a good job getting what they could have him going to the pen. But like, I think in terms of the analytics of Boone, the one thing I didn't understand in that game yesterday was like why Mike Ford was the guy getting the pinch hit calls that Clint Frazier, and literally Mike Ford had not had a hit since August.
Yeah, that was bizarre. I definitely agree with that. That was a little like, you're like, gosh, is that Mike Ford? Like, I guess he wanted to, I completely understand like the lefty or lefty righty matchup, but yeah, to that it's kind of like let Clint go. Clint can play. You know, that's a big at bat for a young player to have to get. So I thought that was really just really weird how they managed this whole thing down the stretch.
Yeah,
I know I've said it. It's like I'm preaching to the choir over and over again. I'm not a fan of Boone. I kind of thought this was a make or break year. Yes, given the circumstances, 60-game season, kind of crazy. But, you know, this is year 3 of Boone's contract where he was, like I keep saying, given the keys to the Ferrari, and he just keeps crashing and burning. So we'll have to see moving forward.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to make a change off of this year, but it is worth watching going forward because I just know, like, I can't put my finger on exactly what it is, but there is something missing with this group where, like, they'll always do great in the regular season. As long as they healthy, they're going to the playoffs every year, especially if we keep this expanded playoff thing going to some stupid number. But once they get in the playoffs, it feels like in these really high-pressure spots, for whatever reason, like, the bats go away. I know they hit earlier in the series, but they got outpitched in Game 5. Aroldis Chapman is now getting up big home runs back-to-back years. Altuve last year and Mike Brousseau yesterday, which is fitting considering he started the whole rivalry by throwing at Brousseau's head earlier in the season. But, like, Andy, what do you think is missing? I know you're not a Boone guy. Do you feel like there's something off with this group that they really don't have?
Yeah, I just feel like, you know, they're still such a young team. You know, the oldest tenured guy is Gardy. So really is that sense of, you know, I guess, veteran leadership. So they're still, in a sense, you know, kind of winging it when it comes to playoff season. Yes, they had CC a couple years ago, you know, retiring at the end of last year. But I'd like to see them get, like, you know, just a couple just quality, you know, veterans to where, who, you know, they're not going to be their everyday guys. It's going to be, you know, they're going to be, you know, they can come in for a couple of bats, you know, just help mold these young guys. And then another thing too is you got to get another big starter. You got to get another big arm.
Yeah, Will,
how does Trevor Bauer sound?
Absolutely. Give me Trevor Bauer, but unfortunately, I don't think he would fit in with the quote-unquote Yankee brand in terms of being a loudmouth.
Yeah, it could be a little bit interesting.
But, well, you know, we'll have to see. I would love to see Trevor Bauer because, you know, I think he's going to be, because I believe he said he's going to do 1-year contracts moving forward.
Yeah, he's not going to be going for, like, the big deals, like a long-term, you know, 6-year deal. I don't see him doing anything like that. But, yeah, I really think the Yankees are, my honest opinion about the Yankees is they will beat up, and I mean beat up on lesser pitching, right? Lesser pitching will never stand a chance against this lineup. But, and DJ LeMahieu's fantastic. They got a few kind of like grinders in that, but it's just like, there's not enough. I don't know, like the term contact guy seems like it's like really cliche, you know, but there's just not enough of that in this lineup where like you're not getting great at bats from the top to the bottom. And when you're in the postseason, yes, Giancarlo Stanton's fantastic. Like those guys are, but you need a proven batter. I think my opinion with this is Cashman has done a fantastic job of finding the secondary pitches, the depth players. Gio Urshela is a great find. Luke Voigt's a great find. DJ LeMahieu turns out to be like a fantastic contract. But I think mostly it's not the end of the world if you end up paying for like a star. Like that's what's missing. Those guys are great. They're great. They play well. They performed well. You didn't get or have to spend anything to get any of them. But you gotta at one point. It just feels like they're reluctant to kind of spend for a position player. So like I'd imagine a guy like a Francisco Lindor, like this is what I'm talking about, like a dynamic impact guy is something that they need in that lineup. And Stanton was supposed to be that guy. Unfortunately, he just really isn't right now. He had a great postseason, but he's definitely hurt. He's hurt a lot. So, and Judge is hurt a lot. So I guess when those guys are in the lineup, you kind of have it. But I just think like a Francisco Lindor slots into the Yankees perfectly.
Yeah, it's like my personal opinion is I think they have enough star power on that team. I just feel like, I think to Anthony's point earlier, it's like I don't think they have enough of those like kind of like grit guys that like remember the early like the '90s Yankees had. Like it was like your Chad Curtises, your Ricky Ledays, like those key role playing guys who would get like that timely hit and work the count. They don't. I think they're too all or nothing with their approach to the plate, and I think that's the way they win games in the regular season with that ballpark. But like we've seen the last couple of years, the teams that don't strike out as much tend to go further in the playoffs.
Absolutely. It's not a secret either.
Yeah.
Strikeouts are a big part of baseball today, but like your lineup can't do what the Yankees lineup does. It just can't.
No, because you're not pacing fifth starters who have ERAs over 5 in the postseason. You're getting teams' best pitchers. And I do think also with this one, the format really, really hurt the Yankees here not having the off days because they couldn't get the bullpen guys rested. Tampa was deeper, which is why I love them this season because the more guys you had, the more you can mix and match. The Yankees basically only had 3 bullpen guys they trusted the entire series, and that came back to bite them.
I don't know. How do you really break down a team, right? Like instead of Garrett, so like realistically, Garrett Cole gets Game 5 and it's on
full
extra
rest. Regularly,
right?
Yeah.
So like now it's just like anything. I know I said I do still think Lindor is great. They should get it, but like this season, a lot of it's kind of like, oh well, you know what? It's a war of attrition. So that was tough. If I'm a Yankee fan, like yeah, I'm upset that they lost, but I completely understand the fact that like that's really just like a kind of like a roll of the dice way of going about the playoffs.
It was just a sense of kind of it's a mismatched season in the sense, let's try to get as many games as we can. Let's try to get, let's try to sell baseball as much as we can right now. Let's try to bring in as many people as we can right now.
No, the whole thing with this was, okay, we are going to expand the playoffs to make some money back for the money we're losing, but at the same time, we can't push this past the end of October because we don't want to compete with the election. So therefore, you have to compress the schedule here to get everything in there, which is why you don't have the off days. And yes, technically you're not traveling, so that helps. But at the same time, like if you are a team like the Yankees, or like imagine last year's Nationals in this format, they would not get far at all because their entire plan was basically based on using their stars in relief every other game.
Yeah, definitely. It's weird. It's definitely, I think, a little just that you kind of like part of making the playoffs is like getting, you're kind of awarded the luxury of being able to mismatch or do all that stuff. But yeah, it's just, again, it's a different year. It's a different season. And that's obviously not going to be something that happens moving forward. No way.
No, it won't. And the Yankees going out basically completes a dark timeline for New York sports in 2020 because, as we saw, in the NHL, the Rangers went out the first round. They did get Lafreniere, but they were out. Devils didn't even make the bubble. The Islanders went to the conference finals. Was actually the best team in New York this year. Mets choked, missed the playoffs. Knicks didn't make the bubble. Nets lost in the first round. Yankees lose. And the football teams are terrible. So this is a very, very, very dark period for sports the rest of the year.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again.
Am I wrong?
Yeah, it came and went with New York sports. Let's just say that, right?
How it works.
Yeah, New York's combined 0-8 in football too as of recording. I don't think it's not gonna get much better there. But let's go to the other teams in the round here, and the expanded playoffs here really did the Astros a solid because they got two teams that are historical playoff choke artists in the Twins and the A's. They beat both of them, go to the American League Championship Series. I don't think Houston has a chance, but if they somehow beat the Rays and get to the World Series, I think the league gets exactly what it deserved for coming up with this stupid format.
I tell you though, I obviously you never condone. I was saying this the other night. You never condone what the Astros did. It was so wrong. It was not right. But like, I really feel like people like, oh, like, yeah, they cheated, but like, I really think people are like, oh, that means they just stink, right? Like they're not actually good. They cheated. Like, no, the Astros. That's the shame of the whole thing. They're fantastic, and they could have won without that. That just marred their reputation. This team is really good, and you saw it in that athletic series. They were ambushing them, right? Like, this was a team that has said, all right, you know what? We've been there. We've done this. We've won. We've won in the stadium. So, to me, it's like, I know people hate the Astros, hate them, but that is like, you watch that team play, that team is, like, I would not be surprised if they go and win the World Series. I really would not. They just seem unfazed.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point, but Anthony, my argument here is this: like, this team was below 500 in the regular season. They don't make the playoffs now for its expanded format. They were in 29-31. They got reseeded out of the Rays match because MLB decided they needed the stupid bracket, so they went to play Oakland instead of playing Tampa, who had the better record. So I think if Houston gets through, I don't think they will because I think Tampa's just deeper than they are in all facets, and Tampa took them to 5 last year when they were a much stronger team when they had Verlander and Cole in the stat, but Houston, I think, good for them for taking advantage of the format, but I think they're a reason why this thing sucks going forward.
Yeah, I mean, you touched it on it. Just, it's kind of the irony in the whole situation of, how horribly everything was handled in terms of the Astros scandal. But again, just kind of how much of a jumbled mess this expanded playoff format is. Because, like you said, the Astros only got in because of the expanded playoffs. So I'm not a fan of it. Like I said earlier, it kind of diminishes, the playoffs in general when you let basically half the teams in. So it kind of, especially diminishes those first round games. It's kind of like, okay, again. But again, we'll definitely touch on it. And I think it's pretty much goes, any normal baseball fan goes to see that the Astros are a really good team. They have a core group of, superstars, Altuve, Bregman, Correa, just all that team, and just they're going to go out there and compete. They're not going to, I don't think they're going to come out, and represent the American League in the World Series, because I honestly think it's the Rays to lose at this point. But it just speaks to, this whole entire mishmash of a season that we've had.
Yeah, I think so too. Let's go to the National League side for a minute, because I think that one pretty much went chalk, because the NL was pretty much, okay, our 4 best got through, minus the Cubs in the Central, because the Central was disgraced. It went 7 teams in from the AL Central. They all lost in the first round. But we ended up exactly where I think we were planning to, Will, with the Dodgers and the Braves. So in that, the NL, since the expanded playoff format didn't give us something different from what we were expecting. I think this series, has a chance to be good, but I think MLB is praying the Dodgers get through.
Yeah, and the Braves are substantially better than when we did that podcast in August.
Yeah.
This Braves team is substantially better than what I even thought, right? Like, we were like, okay, they have superstars, they have stars. Now that pitching is, you got Ian Anderson, you got Max Fried. I mean, listen, like, I do think the Dodgers get through, but the Braves, they just, like, their lineup, when you look at it, you're kind of like, okay. But then you really look into it. You got Freddie Freeman, Osuna, Albies, Acuna, Travis d'Arnaud now, like, good role players. It's just, I would not be surprised too if Atlanta kind of pushes them here, because we all know starting pitching is just, and they have starting pitching,
yeah,
where those guys will grab it and go. It's not just a starting pitcher; it's 2 to 3 to even 4, and I really honestly think this Braves team, they're kind of seeming like pissed off, don't they?
Yeah.
Like Acuna was taking it personal, getting thrown at and stuff. Where I don't know. I kind of like buy into the Braves now. I thought the Dodgers would kind of cakewalk in, and everybody, of course, wants that rematch, and it would be very fun to watch. But I have a feeling you're definitely getting someone playing spoiler. It's going to be Tampa or it's going to be Atlanta. Like I have a feeling we're not going to get this World Series we all want to see.
No, it's just the way baseball works, right?
Yeah.
The way, of course, this season's going to work. We all like to think we know stuff, but in all reality, we don't know nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing on the Braves real quick before I ask a little deeper in the series here is like, I'm really sick and tired, and Will, you know this from our chats with Martino Puccio off air. I'm sick and tired of the narrative that the Mets screwed up by by passing on Travis d'Arnaud and letting him go in 2019. The mistake there was giving him the contract and cutting him after 10 games. That was the mistake, because if you look at his tracker at that point, he was always injured. He was constantly his good pitch framer. His arm was bad. He was not struggling at the plate. Like they let him go, and then the Dodgers let him go as well after they picked him up off waivers. Tampa fixed him. Tampa let him walk. So the Rays are the most guilty here because the Rays could have kept him and then said they let him go to the Braves for 2 years, $16 million. This whole idea the Mets are the ones who screw up the most here just bothers the hell out of me.
Yeah, and it's just, we're in New York, so I get like that. And, I just think the guy, he just needed a change of scenery. Like, that's just, it's not like, people, I feel like people kind of fight it. He just needed a change of scenery, and he got it. I was bummed he never really panned out with the Mets because he was supposed to be fantastic, and injuries just slammed this poor guy. But listen, good for him. That's how I look at it, As somebody who's trying to not be a complete fan about it, I know super fans are really pissed, but that's a guy who, we know how much he battled, how many injuries he went through, how many adjustments he tried to make, and then it just didn't work out. And good for him. He got paid. He's gonna get, if he keeps this up, he's gonna get somehow squeak another contract. And good for him. He's on the Braves and he's playing in the NLCS. I just leave it at that.
Yeah, Anthony, what's your take on the NL series? Who do you like?
At the end of the day, I do like what the Braves are doing, but it's kind of hard to go against the Dodgers. Just the Dodgers, they're just it's an all-star team. Come on, they're ridiculous. So they were my pick. They were my pick heading into the season, and I'm kind of hard for me to go against them at this point.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the preseason predictions. I did keep track of everything here, so I want to go back before we wrap this up and sort of revisit our thoughts on the baseball going into the season. I will give Will credit. Will actually correctly called all 8 American League playoff teams.
I didn't know that.
Yep. You hit all 8. Anthony and I each missed one. You had all 8.
Hey, I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah, the National League was not as successful. Nobody got all of them because Anthony and I both thought the Mets would win the NL East. That worked out great. You also thought the Nationals win the NL East, Will. So none of us had the division champion.
Oh, come on. That was close.
Everyone was close, right?
Yeah, I think the only division we got correctly were the 2 we were both unanimous on. The AL Central with the Twins and the NL West with the Dodgers.
Those are kind of layups.
Yeah.
We can't really, I'm not patting myself on the back for that one.
I will also give credit here for some Cy Young calls. Anthony picked Trevor Bauer to win the National League Cy Young Award.
Oh, yeah. That's money.
That one's cashing, Anthony.
Oh, yeah.
Taking
that one.
Too bad. Unfortunately, I assume you're not going to go put some shekels out before the season.
No, I know that.
And Will also called Shane Bieber for American League Cy Young.
I'll take that. We both went with Ohio, and it paid off.
And to reset the World Series picks here, preseason, we did pretty well. I have the Dodgers over the Rays. That's still alive. Will has the Rays over the Dodgers. That is also still alive. Anthony had the Dodgers over the Yankees, so that one came to an end. So, Will, what
do we know?
Will, are you sticking with your preseason call here?
With Tampa over, yeah. I'm going to say it's a safe one. They seem like a wagon right now. Their pitching's amazing. And when you got Brasso going deep in big at bats, that's just like that's like the sign of like a World Series winner, isn't it? Like when you got guys like Cody Ross with the Giants years ago and so on. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with that.
I will say that one amusing thing about Tampa Bay and the Yankees is just the fact that G-Man Choi just owns Garrett Cole for some reason. That I just don't get.
Dude, G-Man is literally the man. Do you see like the stretches he's making at first? You're like, oh my god, this guy doesn't look like he's quite really nimble, and here he is, like, hell yeah, G-Man.
Yeah. I think, Anthony, as far as like the smart baseball teams go, the ones that follow the analysts, Tampa Bay has become the gold standard of it because Oakland can't find a way to win the playoffs with their system here. Tampa can win the playoffs, and that's a big accomplishment with a small market team.
Well, yeah, Tampa just kind of, like I said earlier, they're just that sneaky team that I think a lot of, people just seem to forget about. They kind of just sneak in there, they do what they do in the regular season, and then come playoff time, you're just like, oh yeah, like you forget that the Rays are a really, really good, solid team.
Yeah, I think we'll appreciate this. I feel like once the sale gets approved and Steve Cohen takes over the Mets and Sandy's in charge of the front office and he sends Brody Van Wagenen on a slow boat off to the middle of nowhere to finds a new GM in there. Get somebody in from the Rays because they have a great idea what they're doing.
Well, we could have had one, right? The Mets could have hired one the first time.
Yep, it could have
been. Wasn't Chaim Bloom. But, yeah, I mean, those are the organizations that just seem to get it. Tampa, the Dodgers, Cardinals, I'm forgetting one. But, those are the teams that constantly just, you're like, how the heck do they have all of these freaking prospects? So, yeah, let's do that. I'm down.
Yankees, too.
Yes, Yankees, yep.
Yeah, because the Yankees' farm system is incredibly deep, and it's a point I made on the top of the podcast. I feel like next year that I could see them potentially going a bit like younger on the rotation to try and save some money for extensions here because they do have all those arms. They're going to get Luis Severino back. They're going to get Domingo Germán off the suspension. They have Montgomery. They have Davy Garcia. And they have Schmidt and King. I could see them saying, we'll go internal. Maybe we have one guy for the back of the rotation goes insurance because Davy's not ready. But like I don't think they're going to go super, super invested in the rotation. They're going to spend more than money on bullpen arms.
Yeah, I will say I like Garcia. I'd like to see I want to see what he becomes.
Yeah.
Oh, I do too. I just want to see how all these full young guys just come up and just finally just kind of get over that hump and just be the stars that everybody thinks they're going to be.
Yep.
And hopefully next year we get a full season to see Yankees raise 19 times. That would be much more fun than what we saw this year.
Well, they did. They made sure to make sure that those counted though.
Yeah, we got 15 meetings in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that's, I think,
a lot of fighting.
A lot of fighting. Hopefully the fans will be there next year, too. That would be nice.
Yes, let's hope, man. Let's hope for everybody. Gosh, yes.
No, let's get back to normal and everything, right?
Yes, please.
Yeah, let's get back to normal next year. But we do want to thank you guys for hopping on. It's been a lot of fun. Let's do some social media plugs. Will, why don't you go first? Tell us what you're doing on social media and about your Jet-related podcast.
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter at Will Schneider H1. And yeah, I do like a Jet podcast where it's not like, it's kind of like, it's just like a work in progress. I kind of just go on, talk about the Jets. If I get a guest, I get a guest. Nothing too fanny or like obnoxious, just really breaking it down, going into the stats and doing some NFL talk about it too. Just trying to keep busy, man. Keep busy. So yeah, if you want to listen to it, go ahead.
How they?
Oh, it's on SoundCloud and Spotify. The Spotify thing is being weird, so I've been trying to fix it. But yeah, SoundCloud, I share the links. You can look my name up, Will Schneiderhan, on SoundCloud as well. It's for sure on there right now.
What's the name of it?
The Green Skies, yep. Green Skies.
All right, check that out. Anthony, how about you? What's some of the stuff you're up to and how follow you on social media?
Oh, man, well, social media could check me out on Instagram at Sorbellini Photos. And then a bit of good news, thank God with sports being back, I actually just picked up a freelance contract a couple weeks ago to photograph Toronto FC over in Connecticut for their home games, and then possibly a couple playoff games, in the city. So I'm enjoying that. Of course I miss, shooting games at Iona, Columbia, and Manhattanville, all those schools I was working with last year. But, I'm just enjoying everything and just hoping things stay on the up and up. Try to get everything, back to normal.
That sounds.
Yeah, follow that page. He's got the photos. He's going to be doing games. We're going to see a Yankee game next year, dude.
Hopefully. That was the goal for this year, but then, COVID had different plans, right?
Yeah, COVID ruined a lot of plans.
We'll be fine. We're moving forward. You move. We move.
Yeah, we are moving forward. Thanks again, guys, for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Up next, a 2-minute drill. I'm going to tell you guys, and I know you guys are not following, but I'll catch you up on what's going on at the French Open. They're just wrapping up the tournament right after this.